It's Oscars week, which means everyone's making a prediction video on who's gonna win, who's gonna get upset, and still complaining, rightfully so, on how Toni Collette did not get nominated for Best Actress because it makes no sense. But this is a different channel with different opinions, and today, instead of talking about the predictions of who I have is gonna win Best Picture, because I already made a video about that just yesterday or a couple days ago, depends how fast I edit this, that we're going to take a look at all the previous Best Picture winners and did they actually deserve to win Best Picture, at least from this century, because if I was going to do all of them, it would take forever and it would just be a 6-hour video, and unless you're someone that's cool and likes me, you're going to watch 5 seconds of that. Anyone that doesn't like me didn't even get to this part of the video, so if you're sticking around, thanks for sticking around. Subscribe while you're at it, because I might do this again. And let's get started with the 2018 Best Picture nominees. Black Panther, BlacKkKlansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, The Favorite, Green Book, Roma, A Star is Born, and Vice. Now, I literally just posted a video about why Green Book is my favorite out of these, but Roma is objectively the best movie here on a technical level, and I respect it way more than I like it, but we'll find out what's going to win in a couple days, so I don't know what the Best Picture winner is. The other 6 nominations I have problems with for different reasons that I've addressed in 2 previous videos now, but unlike this list, 2018 was an amazing year for movies. Some of my favorites included mid-90s. I have a video on my channel specifically on why I love this movie so much, but this is top tier of the top tier for me. One of those movies that comes out once every 5 to 10 years that you personally just love and you adore, and you want other people to adore it, but you really just love it more than everyone else. I know I'm in the minority on how much I truly just really love this movie, but if you're in that same ballpark, then boy, you better subscribe, because we're gonna get along just fine. Hereditary was the best horror movie of the entire decade. Annihilation is my favorite science fiction film of the decade besides 2 of Chris Nolan's, which we'll get to in a minute. Widows shoved so much great commentary into a genre piece that's been done a million times already. Luca fucking killed it with the Suspiria remake. 8th Grade hit me with the feels like a stack of bricks. Assassination Nation and Bad Times at the El Royale were a ton of fun. Blind Spotting lived up to the hype. Searching was a good unfriended movie. Amazing documentaries like 3 Identical Strangers, Minding the Gap, and Won't You Be My Neighbor were all a thing. Blockbusters that actually lived up to their years of built-up hype, but all of them were movies that weren't nominated for Best Picture though. 2017 was another not as great year in terms of Best Picture nominees, even though I think it's definitely better than 2018's list of Best Picture nominees, and those were Call Me By Your Name, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Get Out, Lady Bird, Phantom Thread, The Post, 3 Billboards, and The Shape of Water. I've seen all these besides The Post, and I actually take it back, this is a pretty good list. Not a great list, but a pretty solid list. Call Me By Your Name I really liked but didn't love as much as other people, but I keep thinking about it and still listen to the soundtrack like once a week, so I've been really itching to give it a rewatch soon. Darkest Hour is boring and pretty bad. Dunkirk is one of the best theater experiences I've ever had in my entire life. I saw it 3 different times in theaters, once after a car accident, twice in IMAX, and one of those times being my first experience at the Chinese theater in LA, so yeah, it holds a really special place in my heart. Some people say it's not as good at home, but as long as you have a decent sized screen and some decent sound, I think it still really holds up. Get Out, I've said it since it came out, I think it's just another basic horror movie. I'm sorry, I'm really excited for Us, and I can't wait to see this Twilight Zone reboot, but Get Out, it just really did nothing for me. Lady Bird is great and I love it even more as it ages. Phantom Thread has a lot of really diehard fans who think it's one of PTA's best, and maybe I'll get there one day, but right now it's probably my least favorite from him besides Inherent Vice. That being said, this and Inherent Vice are still really good movies, and I would kill to have this be my worst film in my filmography, but PTA has just set the bar so high with some of my favorite movies that I was slightly disappointed both times I saw this in theaters. 3 Billboards was really good, but I honestly haven't thought about it since last year. Still a great movie, but kind of just got left behind already. And then we have The Shape of Water, the Best Picture winner, and it's good. I liked it a lot more when I saw it in theaters, but ever since then, I've slowly liked it less and less, like every day. It's nowhere near the level of something like Pan's Labyrinth to me, and as you could probably tell, I thought a lot of the other nominees were way more deserving than this. Along with some movies that weren't nominated, like Baby Driver, which was just badass and awesome, and my favorite from Edgar Wright, honestly. Seriously, this movie's just great and everything I want from a summer blockbuster. It's awesome. Beach Rats is one of the most underrated films of the decade, and I loved pretty much everything about it. Killing of a Sacred Deer was great and probably my favorite Yorgos movie out of his last 3. None of them topped Brigsby Bear, though. I love this movie so much. If you are somebody that aspires to make movies one day and haven't checked this out yet, yo, you really have to. I still don't like spoiling it because a lot of people still don't know what it's actually about, but just take my word for it and go watch it. It's really like a child to me. People loved Blade Runner 2049, and I was like, yeah, it looks pretty. I hated the first Blade Runner after my first 3 viewings, but the 4th one really just did something to me. I still don't know what it did to me, but I love it now. So maybe at some point I'll give 2049 another chance, and maybe I'll end up loving it. Also, we got The Last Jedi, which was great. 2016 was one of the worst years for movies in my opinion, even though the Best Picture nominees were pretty solid. We had Arrival, Fences, Hacksaw Ridge, Hell or High Water, Hidden Figures, La La Land, Lion, Manchester by the Sea, and the Best Picture winner, Moonlight. Moonlight is amazing and one of the few from this century that I think was actually the most deserving of that win. Everything from the technicalities of it to the emotion is just executed brilliantly, and I will always love Barry Jenkins for this movie. I do like The Witch slightly more, but I can't complain about my second favorite movie of 2016 winning Best Picture. It's amazing. It's great. It's one of my favorites of all time. But like I said, The Witch is just an incredible experience. The second best horror movie of the decade behind Hereditary. And yeah, it's The Witch. I love it. In terms of the rest, I have seen Arrival. It's really great, but a lot of people love it way more than I do. Hacksaw Ridge is really average for the first half, but fuck me, once those war scenes start happening, it turns into an entirely different movie. It's honestly some of the most well-directed war scenes I've ever seen, so in that regard, yeah, Hacksaw Ridge is great. Hell or High Water is really forgettable. La La Land I thought was really good, but I really have to rewatch this one just because I think I could end up loving it if I do rewatch it. In terms of what wasn't nominated, I really love The Neon Demon a lot. It's probably my favorite from Nicholas Winding Refn, and it's something that will always just be burned into my mind, and I still seem to think about it all the time. I really love it. I know it's a movie that's not for everybody, but if you're into Nicholas Winding Refn's style and you haven't seen it, you gotta check it out. Other than that though, yeah, 2016 really didn't have much for me. And 2015 was kinda similar in my opinion. The Big Short, Bridge of Spies, Brooklyn, Mad Max Fury Road, The Martian, The Revenant, Room, and Spotlight were the nominees for Best Picture, and somehow Spotlight won. I'm kinda biased because I get really bored by these kinds of journalism movies, and don't get me wrong, for that type of movie, Spotlight is pretty good, but not as good as the insanity of Fury Road, or the style of The Big Short, or the emotion of Brooklyn and Room, or the entirety of The Revenant. It's better than The Martian, but that shouldn't really be the level of praise you're going for. Bridge of Spies was good and somehow is one of the few movies that made me cry, even though when I was crying, I realized, why am I doing this for a slightly above average movie? 2015 was a not so great year overall though. Like Steve Jobs and Straight Outta Compton were great, and I loved The Force Awakens until The Last Jedi came out. So that really just leaves me with World of Tomorrow, which is a really short animation that is way more thought-provoking than most of the films that have come out over the entire decade. I seriously love it. It's just my favorite short film, probably. Now that I think about it, World of Tomorrow is my favorite short film of all time. And Youth, a film I've been dying to rewatch twice for some time now, because it's one of 3 movies I've ever seen that made me cry in 2 completely different scenes. That never happens with me. And Youth is incredible, and I really think it's going to be looked at differently around 30 years from now. But other than that, 2015 is a huge disappointment compared to 2014. This is the best year for film since I've been alive. There's just no debate. Even the Oscars got it right this time. We had American Sniper. Okay, they almost got it right. Birdman, Boyhood, The Grand Budapest Hotel, Imitation Game, Selma, Theory of Everything, and Whiplash. Seriously, half of these are borderline classics by this point. Plus, when you add some of my favorites of all time like Interstellar, Mommy, Enemy, Nightcrawler, The Lego Movie, plus great movies like Gone Girl, Foxcatcher, Inherent Vice, The Babadook, amazing blockbusters like X-Men Days of Future Past, The Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Edge of Tomorrow, 22 Jump Street, and The Raid 2. This is the best year for movies in my mind, at least since I've been born. There's literally something for anybody here, and 7 of my favorite movies of all time come from this year. I'm always switching around what my definitive favorite is, but I do think Birdman is a worthy Best Picture winner. And just like Moonlight, I think Birdman is not only perfect in the technicalities, but also the emotion as well. It's just amazing. I know you could also say that about Whiplash and Mommy and Boyhood and Grand Budapest and Interstellar and Enemy, but in a year where there's just so much greatness, I think Birdman is a worthy win in my book. 2013 is probably my second favorite year we get to talk about so far. The nominees for Best Picture were 12 Years a Slave, American Hustle, Captain Phillips, Dallas Buyers Club, the most overrated movie of the entire century, Her, Nebraska, that movie that nobody saw, and The Wolf of Wall Street. Some people really hate on this because of the subject matter, but I really think it's the perfect evolution of Scorsese's style of gangster movie. I've seen this movie at least 8 times now and have been wanting to rewatch it a lot recently because I haven't seen it in probably a year or two. 12 Years a Slave is great, and I do understand why it won Best Picture, but I do think Wolf of Wall Street is both better and a much bigger favorite for me. I saw Her for the first time recently and thought that was great, but the movies that weren't nominated for Best Picture is where my love really lies for 2013. The Place Beyond the Pines is one of the big ones for me, as it's one of the best movies I think I've ever seen still. I really do just love it. Just like Brigsby Bear, it's one you should go in knowing nothing if you still haven't seen anything about it, so just take my word for it and just cry like I did. The Way Way Back is also another one of my favorites now. I watch this at the beginning of every summer right after I watch Dazed and Confused. It's got some cheese in there, I know, but at the same time, there's just something about this movie that I just absolutely adore. After like my 6th viewing of it, I finally got some tears coming out. So I think it's great, and I really love this movie. Prisoners. What can I say about this movie that hasn't been said yet? It's the movie that put Denny on the map for a reason, and it's still one of his best to date. Don John is honestly my favorite romance of the entire decade. I absolutely love this movie, and I guess not a lot of people feel the same way as me, but this is another one that I fucking love it from beginning to end. Before Midnight is my least favorite of the 3 in the trilogy, but it's still great. So yeah, 2013 was another fantastic year for movies, and is one I think people forget about because 2014 was just that amazing. 2012 was a solid year as well, with the nominees being Argo, Amour, Beasts of the Southern Wild, Django Unchained, Les Miserables, Life of Pi, Lincoln, Silver Linings Playbook, and Zero Dark 30. I loved Argo when it came out, but I really do forget a lot of what happened in Argo at this point, so I don't really know if it deserves Best Picture still. The 2 I really loved here though were Amour and Django for obvious reasons. Amour is the movie that introduced me to Michael Haneke, who is now one of my favorite directors, and the only reason I don't call him my definitive favorite working right now is because I have to see a few more of his films before I make that claim, but based off the 4 I've seen from him, this guy is a living genius, and I just really need to watch the rest of his movies at this point. Amour is amazing though, and if you don't know anything about it, watch it immediately. You can thank me after. Django is one you've already seen. It's great. I like some of Tarantino's other stuff more than this, but it's a great Tarantino movie. I like Silver Linings Playbook a lot because it perfectly portrays the life of a Philadelphia Eagles fan, so it wins some points for me right there. In 2012, we also got Skyfall, which from what I've seen is no question the best James Bond movie and one of my favorite blockbusters of the entire century. The Perks of Being a Wallflower has one of my favorite endings of all time. Moonrise Kingdom might be my favorite Wes Anderson movie, and The Master is just another great Paul Thomas Anderson movie. The Avengers came out this year. The Dark Knight Rises was amazing when I first saw it in 2012, and then I started watching good movies and I realized, oh wait, that was pretty disappointing, even though it's still a good movie. It's Nolan's worst movie, but it's still a good movie. So yeah, 2012, good year. 2011, not so good year. The Best Picture nominees included The Winner, The Artist, The Descendants, Extremely Loud, and how the fuck did this get nominated for Best Picture? The Help, Hugo, Midnight in Paris, which I still have yet to see, I'm sorry, Moneyball, The Tree of Life, and War Horse. The Artist is great, and out of this list that they gave us, it might actually be my favorite, so I'm cool with that winning from these movies specifically. The Descendants is a dramedy that has kind of died in popularity, but damn is it a solid movie. And by solid, I mean it's really great if you haven't seen it yet. Moneyball I've really enjoyed a lot, but never really hit the favorite sports movie of all time list for me. Tree of Life is also probably the last great Terrence Malick movie we got, so that's something, I guess. In terms of what wasn't nominated though, Drive is everybody's favorite from this year, and I definitely need to rewatch this very soon. I thought it was great when I first saw it, but honestly, I don't know if it still has a chance of topping the Neon Demon for me at this point. And again, I know I love the Neon Demon a lot more than most people, but it's that good, man. You gotta check out the Neon Demon. I don't know how The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo didn't get nominated for Best Picture, but damn, is this a great movie. I just love the whole mood and environment of this entire thing, and it might be my favorite Fincher movie, even though I think there's like 2 others that are just as worthy of that title. The Raid came out this year, and it's probably my favorite straight-up action movie of the entire decade. I need to rewatch this one soon because this movie, it just rocks, man. The Raid is awesome. Deathly Hallows Part 2 came out 8 years ago. Holy shit. I'll just make this the part where any year there's a Harry Potter movie, just know that deserves a shout out. I don't want to do it individually every single year, but they all deserve shoutouts because I love them all. But this was one of my absolute favorites in the series anyway, and they couldn't really have ended it any better. Well, maybe a little bit better, but for the most part, it delivered possibly the most solid finale of all time for a franchise, besides another one we'll get to soon. The In-Betweeners movie is no joke my favorite movie from this year, and one of my favorites of all time. I mean like top 15 movies of all time. Emphasis on the word favorite and not best, because no, it's not one of the best movies of all time, but it is the perfect finale to possibly the best comedy show of all time, which also happens to be my favorite TV show of all time. Seriously though, I love, and I mean love this movie. I think I've logged it about 5 times on Letterboxd alone, and I definitely watched it another 5 times before I even made a Letterboxd, so yeah. I'm gonna name that my favorite of 2011, but 2010, here we go. We had 127 Hours, Black Swan, The Fighter, Inception, The Kids Are Alright, which was the only nominee that I don't think anybody else saw, The Social Network, Toy Story 3, True Grit, and Winter's Bone. And out of all these high quality films, The King's Speech won it all. Now I get why this movie gets so much hate, and yeah, compared to a lot of these, it doesn't really deserve the best picture of this year, but I still really like this movie. It's good, and I personally like it more than The Fighter, 127 Hours, and True Grit, so in my book, it wasn't the absolute worst choice here. That being said, Black Swan is definitely better. I currently don't love it as much as everybody else does, but it's such a solid movie. But then we have Inception. I've said this a million times before, but once again, this is the movie that got me into learning about how to make a movie. I loved everything about it when I first saw it, and I still love everything about it after so many viewings. So yeah, this would easily be the best picture winner in my book, but for many, The Social Network is their pick, and Social Network, it's also great. It's one of Fincher's best and contains one of the best pieces of dialogue I've ever seen delivered.
Sorry, my Prada's in the cleaners, along with my hoodie and my fuck you flip-flops, you pretentious douchebag.
Toy Story 3 is the very first movie that ever made me cry, so yeah, I love Toy Story 3. I have to rewatch all 3 Toy Story movies, but Toy Story 3 was great. And Winter's Bone, holy shit, is this movie not talked about enough? I watched it for the first time last year, and I loved pretty much everything about this thing. It's basically like a gangster movie, but with some sort of redneck filter over it, and it's fucking awesome. This year we also got Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which is just as incredible as everyone says it is. Blue Valentine, which isn't as great as Place Beyond the Pines, but it's still a great movie. The Town, which was one of my favorite movies when I was a cinephile noob. Incendies! This movie is amazing. I don't understand how it's not talked about more. It's easily my favorite Denis Villeneuve movie, but it seems like no one's seen it. So if you haven't seen it, you have to watch Incendies. It's amazing. Along with Jackass 3, which is another masterpiece. 2009 is the year right before 2010, which also means this was pre-Inception. It was post-Dark Knight, so I watched a couple classics from back in the day, but anything I'd watched from this year on to like when I was born, I'd either watched for A, just pure entertainment as a kid, or B, I've been trying to play catch up. There's so many movies out there that I still have to catch up on, just like everybody else. So if I mention like a really great movie that you love, it means I probably haven't seen it yet. So just comment down below. I'll let you know if I've seen it. If not, I'm trying to see it, man. It's really hard to catch up on all these movies. But the 2009 Best Picture nominations. We have Avatar. It's a good movie. Stop hating on it. The Blind Side, which was a movie I liked back when I was in 7th grade. District 9, which has an incredible first half hour and a not so incredible second and third act. An Education, which I haven't seen. The best movie nominated for Best Picture this year. Precious, which I never saw. A Serious Man, which I've been told I love but still haven't seen. Up. It's up in the air, which I want to see but still haven't, and The Hurt Locker, which I despise this movie. To be fair, I haven't seen this movie in almost a decade, so I could end up liking it a bit more than when I first saw it. But even when I was first getting into filmmaking, I was like, wow, this is really bad. Maybe my opinion will change when I give it a rewatch in the future, but there is this really good video of this guy out there who served in the army and basically explains why the Hurt Locker being deemed as this great realistic war experience is really all bullshit that I'll have linked down below so you can check out the full thing.
Hold on a second. God damn it. I think I forgot my gloves down there.
What?
I forgot my gloves. Hang on.
Those gloves don't cost anything. You get a couple of pairs issued to you, so he probably had extra. Violating safety regulations for a pair of easily replaceable gloves doesn't make you a badass. It makes you, what's the word? A tool bag idiot.
But Inglourious Basterds, man, I love this movie. I've been saying for years it's my favorite Tarantino movie by a mile. I like it that much. I think it's way better than anything else he's ever done. Even Tarantino himself might actually agree with that statement.
You know something, you bitch? I think this just might be my masterpiece.
Remember when I said Moonrise Kingdom might be my favorite Wes Anderson movie? Well, it might be my favorite because Fantastic Mr. Fox might also be my favorite. I love this movie so much, and it's easily top 10 animated movies of all time for me. And honestly, as I just said that, maybe it's more top 5 after one more rewatch. The White Ribbon was something I liked the first time I watched it, but once my boy Austin Gaby, I'll have his Twitter link down below, when he explained certain things behind the story that I didn't pick up on the first time, I was blown away. But that being said, Inglourious Basterds is still my favorite Nazi movie of the year. 2008, 5 movies that nobody gives a shit about were nominated for Best Picture over. Yep, this wasn't nominated for Best Picture. I don't know what to say that I and many others haven't said already. Over the past 10 years, there has not been a single film that has had more of a lasting impact still than Christopher Nolan's superhero epic. The genre peaked right here, and the fact that something like Black Panther is being deemed the first superhero movie to be nominated for Best Picture, yeah, that doesn't sit well. I mean, even Iron Man came out this year, and even that is so much more deserving of that title than Black Panther. I feel like some people don't talk about this one as much as recent MCU movies, but damn, I love this movie just as much as when I first saw it in theaters. And besides The Winter Soldier, this is probably still my favorite MCU movie. It's just great. Honestly, besides those though, there's nothing really much here. Slumdog Millionaire was good, but I couldn't tell you a single thing that happened in Slumdog Millionaire. I really don't like Benjamin Button, and I really don't know why. Actually, I do know why. It was so boring. It was so long. I'm sorry, I don't like it. And Hunger, I need to give a rewatch because I didn't really dig it the first time, but I didn't really dig 12 Years a Slave that much the first time I watched it, and when I rewatched that, I thought it was great, so I owe Hunger a rewatch as well. So, 2007 was the battle between the best matchup of Best Picture nominees of all time. We had No Country for Old Men versus There Will Be Blood versus Atonement and Juno and Michael Clayton. But damn, this 1v1 is insane, and I love both of them. I would usually say There Will Be Blood is the clear winner for me, but I just rewatched No Country for Old Men, and damn does that movie deliver. Everything from the acting to the pacing to the ending, it's all just perfect. And I hate westerns, but this is easily the best one I have ever seen and one of my all-time favorites. And even though I adore The Big Lebowski, I think this is officially my favorite Coen Brothers movie. That being said, I do think I like There Will Be Blood more, by like the slightest margin though. I've said before that I think you can make the argument that this is the best film of all time, and I stand by that. Everything is perfect about it. And even though it's long, it flies by every time I pop it on. Daniel Day-Lewis gives possibly the best performance I've ever seen, while Paul Dano gives possibly the third or fourth best performance I've ever seen. But I do love them both pretty much almost exactly equally, so I'm okay with No Country winning it all. Juno was great, but didn't last as long in my head as it did for a lot of other people. This year though, we also got Superbad, which is the funniest movie I've ever seen, Sweeney Todd, which is my favorite musical behind Singing in the Rain, Gone Baby Gone, which proved Batfleck could actually direct, The Simpsons movie, which was my favorite comedy when I was growing up. The first Transformers came out, which was one of my favorite movies pre-2010 when I was getting into movies. I still think it's a ton of fun still, and it set the foundation of every CGI heavy blockbuster that came out after it. The best High School Musical movie dropped, the worst crossover of all time dropped, and the biggest meme behind Shrek was born.
You like jazz?
2006, the nominees were Babel, or is it Babel? I don't know. I know I have to watch it. It's been on my list for a while. We also had Letters from Iwo Jima, Little Miss Sunshine, The Queen, and guys, we really need to give Marty his Oscar soon. I used to hate The Departed, and I don't really remember specifically why, because I rewatched it a couple years ago, and I genuinely loved it the second time. I don't know if I loved it as much as Little Miss Sunshine, though. This movie is amazing, and it's one of those movies where I have yet to find anybody that disliked it. I think I prefer The Prestige over both of these, though, honestly. I think it would be cool if Nolan did another film like this in Memento, and I know it's hard to step away from the huge checks while making amazing blockbusters, but I think a lot of people forget that he doesn't need a huge budget to tell a great story. Blood Diamond is another one that I loved from this year, giving one of the best performed scenes I've ever seen.
Where is the diamond? Where is the diamond? Do you see a diamond? Huh? You devils have taken my family, my home, and they lost everything.
Pan's Labyrinth and Children of Men were both really good, but that's really it when it comes to 2006 for me, honestly. So in 2005, we got Crash. And 4 other movies I haven't seen yet, but they're all more deserving than Crash. You remember this part of the video? So if I mention like a really great movie that you love, it means I probably haven't seen it yet. Yeah, Brokeback Mountain and Capote are definitely 2 of the really big ones I still have to see. But again, they're definitely better than Crash. I went in with an open mind because I was like, you know what? Everybody hates on things all the time. People like to gang up on things and people on Twitter. Maybe this could be amazing.
Man, look around you, man. You couldn't find a whiter, safer, or better lit part of this city right now. But yet this white woman sees 2 black guys who look like UCLA students strolling down the sidewalk, and her reaction is blind fear? I mean, look at us, dog. Are we dressed like gangbangers?
Get the fuck out of the car!
Give me the keys!
Come on, hurry up!
Okay.
It lives up to the hype of being the worst Best Picture winner, at least in recent memory. 2005 doesn't have much I've seen, but Batman Begins stands out immediately. It's not on the level of The Dark Knight, but it's still the 2nd best superhero movie of all time in my book and deserves all the praise it gets. Cachet is another brilliant film from our boy Michael Haneke, and is something you have to experience for yourself if you know nothing about it. We also got Revenge of the Sith, which, wait for it, might be my favorite Star Wars movie besides Empire.
Not from a Jedi.
2004 had The Aviator, Finding Neverland, $1 Million Baby, Ray, and Sideways, and so far I've only seen $1 Million Baby out of these 5. First 2/3 are an enjoyable, by-the-numbers boxing movie, but oh shit, do things get amazing in that 3rd act. I have no idea how this never got spoiled for me, but if you have yet to see $1 Million Baby, see it soon before someone talks about it and ruins it for you. 2004 had some bangers though. The Incredibles for one is easily one of Pixar's best, while Howl's Moving Castle might be my favorite from Miyazaki. Friday Night Lights is one of my favorite sports movies. Anchorman and Napoleon Dynamite are 2 staples of comedy for me. Before Sunset's ending is perfect. Primer and Saw are both huge independent inspirations for me. Spider-Man 2 is still possibly my favorite thing Marvel has ever done. So 2004, pretty great year. 2003, look, the only Best Picture nominee I saw was Return of the King. Actually, wait, I saw Mystic River too. And that one's great, but Return of the King is on a whole other level. Let's get this out of the way and just say I think all 3 Lord of the Rings movies should have won Best Picture in their respective years based off the nominees I have seen. Why? It's fucking Lord of the Rings, man. This year we also got Finding Nemo, which might start to beat out Toy Story for my favorite Pixar movie. It's really just that good in every single possible way. Kill Bill Volume 1 is great. The first Pirates of the Caribbean is great. You know what? Fuck it. The Cat in the Hat is genius. And no, this isn't me pulling a joke. I genuinely believe this movie knows what it is and is hilarious. I might have liked it more than Old Boy, which is also a very good movie from 2003. There's also this great short called Wasp from Andrea Arnold. You might know her from directing American Honey a couple of years ago, and I would highly recommend this. In 2002, Chicago won Best Picture. And Chicago was a good movie, but come on, between Two Towers and Gangs of New York and The Pianist, which I've heard great things about but haven't seen yet, nah, it doesn't deserve it. Gangs of New York is dope, but I really need to rewatch it. Punch Drunk Love wasn't nominated for Best Picture, and I don't know what's good with that because Punch Drunk Love is amazing and Adam Sandler gives an Oscar-worthy performance in it. Other than that though, not much from 2002. I mean, I love Lilo and Stitch and Spider-Man almost as much as I love the first Jackass movie, but if we're being real, the biggest Best Picture snub was Rhapsody Street Kids Believe in Santa.
Great grandma, you always know just what to say. Christmas.
In 2001, A Beautiful Mind won, and yeah, was I the only one who went in not knowing anything about this movie? And if you're that person as well and you know nothing about A Beautiful Mind, go in blind. It's a really good movie, but there were a handful that were definitely better for me. For starters, Mulholland Drive is my favorite David Lynch film and is easily one of my favorites of all time. You might hate it the first time you watch it, but we'll talk after, and I'll try and convince you. Shrek is great, and from what I remember was low-key my first movie date. I was 4 and our dads were there, but I'm claiming it as a date because saying Shrek was my first movie date is a title I cannot pass up on. Monsters, Inc. is another classic from Pixar's golden age, while Spirited Away is another that totally lives up to the massive hype it's built up. Conspiracy is a really underrated HBO film I think you should all see. It's basically how the Holocaust was planned at some sort of dinner event. Donnie Darko is every new cinephile's favorite movie. And then 2000, finally, We are almost done with this. Oh my god. I saw Traffic. Traffic was really good, but Gladiator deserves Best Picture more. The other three I really know I have to see. But Gladiator is awesome. I have to rewatch it soon, but that ending is easily top 10 of all time for me, and I think it's a really beautiful ending. 2000 had some even better bangers than Gladiator though. Like, I'm sorry Gladiator, but Memento is already in a completely different league than you. This is another one where I can't say what I and others haven't said already about it, but it's that good, and it's even better on multiple viewings. Amores Perros is something I have been really itching to rewatch because on my first watch, I thought it was a masterpiece, and it's easily up there with Birdman as Inarritu's best. Battle Royale is another foreign film that I just love. It's one of the most fun yet simultaneously disturbing movies I can think of, and is something I revisit every couple of years. The Emperor's New Groove is no question Disney's most underrated movie. This thing is absolutely hilarious and deserves way more love than it gets by the public. The Grinch, like The Cat in the Hat, is genius. Don't at me.
5 o'clock, solve world hunger. Tell no one.
Actually do at me, and we'll debate all day about Dr. Seuss adaptations, but nothing from this year tops Almost Famous for me. From a huge coming-of-age fan, this might be my favorite coming-of-age movie. Everything about this movie is amazing, and it has like 5 scenes that could pop up on my top 10 favorite scenes of all time list. I love everything about it, and you have to give it a chance if you haven't seen it yet. And that's it. This video was very long. It took me a long time to edit, but I hope you enjoyed it. I really want to continue doing these. I want to do each decade from now on. Basically covered 2 entire decades, and that took a very long time. But I would like to do the other decades. And if you liked this video and made it to this point in the video, comment something down below so I know you made it this far and want more. If I get like 10 comments with gummo, then I will make the 90s one. If I don't get 10 comments, then I really need to clickbait more. So subscribe if you liked the video. Hopefully I have more like it. And yeah, I really enjoyed making this video. I really need to come up with a new outro. Maybe I'll just keep saying that, and that's my consistent outro.